The Saber Strike 2015 Field Training Exercise, or FTX, has begun. Units from America, Lithuania, and Germany test their compatibilities and interoperability by splitting up units from each nation and creating a multinational offense and defense, and pitting them against each other.
Well, yeah, I think this type of training is very important, and I think it will continue, and I think it will continue to get bigger as well. As we continue to do these exercises through Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, you know, we will learn more from each other every time we do it, and then as we train together, we become better together.
This FTX in Rukla is 3 days long and will consist of each multinational task force switching roles from offense to defense every 24 hours. This is to improve joint operational capabilities in a range of missions, as well as preparing the participating nations to support multinational contingency operations.
That's the first time for us that we work with our new NATO partners in the east of Europe. I think it's great to work here with our Lithuanian comrades. I think it's a total new exercise for us, because we never practiced with them before, and I hope to bring them a couple of good ideas for the future.
Reporting from Rukla, Lithuania for the 16th MPAD, I'm Army Staff Sergeant Scott Shoemaker.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says the country will increase the size of its nuclear arsenal in 2015 by more than 40 intercontinental missiles. Putin made the remarks at the opening of an arms show in the capital, Moscow. The Russian president vowed to continue a big arms modernization program despite the nation's economic downturn. He also noted that the military was to start testing its new long-range warning radar intended to monitor the western direction, and will later deploy another one in the east. He said that the rearmament program should help encourage the nation's economic growth and spearhead innovations. This comes after the U.S. proposed increasing its military presence in NATO states. In Eastern Europe, tensions are high over Russia's role in the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Right, joining us to discuss this further now is Dmitry Babich. He's with the Voice of Russia radio station, and he joins us via Skype from Moscow. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Mr. Babich. Now, this rearmament program that is being launched by President Vladimir Putin, what do you make of it, specifically in the context of the U.S. proposing to increase its military presence in Eastern Europe?
Well, it's quite clear that it's just a response by Russia to the recent statements and steps by the United States and the European Union. Let me remind you that just yesterday, the Polish foreign minister confirmed that the United States would deploy a brigade, which means from 3,000 to 5,000 American servicemen and about 1,200 military vehicles on the border with Russia in Poland, in the Baltic states, in Bulgaria, and in Romania. So Russia has to prepare a response. And what can we do but to arm ourselves? We only have one ally on our western border, that is Belarus. The other countries, despite the fact that the population there is pretty pro-Russian, you know, the other countries are ruled by regimes hostile to Russia. Moldova is ruled by a hostile regime. Ukraine is ruled by a hostile regime. So Russia can only rely on itself in this situation.
Right. So, Mr. Babich, the situation will not be containable if there seems to be some sort of an arms race between Eastern European neighbors of Russia and the Russian government itself. Can the situation and the tensions be calmed? Is there still time?
Well, Russia has been trying to calm the tensions, and right now Russia, of course, has a lot more weapons and combat-ready troops than Ukraine or Moldova or Georgia. You know, these are all dwarfs compared to the Russian military force. But the Ukrainian regime wants to continue the war because it's the only way they can keep getting money from the United States, from the International Monetary Fund, from the European Union. The new government of Ukraine has done a very bad job reforming economy. Even its Western sponsors agree that there was no reform and the Ukrainian economy is collapsing. So the only way for these people to stay in power is to say that Russia is guilty of everything. It continues the war. We continue the war. Yes, I agree, it's a dangerous situation, but it was not Russia who provoked this situation. It was the West that made the coup in Ukraine, and it is the West that is deploying now a new brigade right on the borders with Russia.
Well, I guess the main question here then becomes, Mr. Babic, is Russia a threat to these Eastern European countries as they get into talks with the U.S. for these deployments?
Well, certainly Russia is not a threat. And Russia has absolutely no intention of attacking any of these nations. These are our fraternal nations. If you ask Russians their feelings about Belarusians or Ukrainians, we speak, most of us speak the same language. There are just small minorities in Belarus and in Ukraine who speak Ukrainian and Belarusian, which are very close to Russian. We're not going to attack these nations. It's absolutely out of the question. The situation with Crimea was a special one because Crimea is populated by Russians, and it would have a very hard life under the new regime, which installed itself in Kiev. But of course, the United States and the EU present Russia as an aggressor. I think people in Iran know it very well. But to say that Russia may attack these countries, it's like saying that Iran could attack Iraq in 1981, or that Lebanon can attack Israel in right now or in the 80s. Of course, Russia is not going to attack anyone.
Okay, let's leave it there for now. That's Dmitry Babic with the Voice of Russia radio station joining us via Skype from Moscow. Mr. Babic, thank you very much indeed for your comments here on Press TV.
Robert Gibbs was the official White House press secretary under Obama. Gibbs was that guy at that podium with the flags behind it on your TV, telling you very important things from the White House. But he just took a new job that should make you question just how important that job at that podium is. Because Robert Gibbs' new job is Executive Vice President and Global Chief Communications Officer for none other than McDonald's. Yep, Gibbs went from the White House to the world's grossest burger house. Instead of telling the world important information from the White House, he'll be telling the world important information about how great McDonald's is for the planet. His job will be to build a more modern, progressive burger company and to lead McDonald's in communicating clear, coordinated messages, enhancing the brand and supporting corporate strategies. That's McDonald's official BS about the job. What Gibbs' new job is really about is the fact that most of McDonald's troubles today are related to government regulations, franchise rights, and of course, the crappy wages they pay their workers. There's a huge movement underway trying to get Washington to force McDonald's to pay better wages. So who better to combat that than a top-level Washington man like Gibbs himself? That's why McDonald's hired Gibbs, a man with zero food industry experience, by the way, so he can figure out ways to keep Washington off McDonald's back about the crappy wages. Of course, it's not a surprise that the revolving door between Washington and corporations is swinging fast right now as the Obama administration winds down. But even though it's not a surprise, it still flies in the face of the promise Obama made early on about ending the practice of the revolving door. Of course, nothing's changed, and politicians will continue exchanging their Washington power for corporate power. But from the White House to McDonald's, that's really a new low. So the guy that stood at a podium to tell you stuff that the White House was gonna do, like, close Guantanamo Bay or stop spying on all of us, that guy is now gonna plan ways for McDonald's to tell you stuff like their McNuggets really are just healthy chicken meat. Robert Gibbs is going straight from one podium of BS to another. Remember that the next time you see a White House press secretary at a podium. At the end of the day, they're all just trying to sell you the same thing. A bunch of rancid burgers. I'm the resident. Tonight, let's talk about that.